CEO needs a fake date for his ex's engagement party, but she turns heads and steals the spotlight. Thomas stood by the window of his office, skyline of the city stretching endlessly before him. His phone buzzed, the screen flashing with a name he had not seen in a long time. Olivia. He debated letting it ring out, but curiosity, or something closer to defiance, won. He answered. "Thomas," came her voice, smooth and confident. "Still too busy saving the world, one investment at a time?" "What do you want, Olivia?" he asked flatly, eyes narrowing. "I just wanted to let you know I am getting engaged," she said with a mock sweetness, "to someone who actually knows how to commit. We're throwing a little celebration. Of course you are invited." He said nothing. She chuckled. "Come on, Thomas. It has been, 3 years since we broke up, and you still have not managed to find anyone new? Or are you just so insufferable no woman can stand you longer than a coffee date?" He let out a quiet breath. "That's none of your business." "Oh, but it is," she purred. "I told everyone you'd show up alone. I mean, it is your pattern, cold, proud, incapable of real connection." A pause. "Unless you surprise us all, maybe bring someone? That is, if someone's willing to pretend they love you for a night." Thomas stared out the window, jaw tightening. "You'll be surprised," he said quietly. "Good," she said. "I like surprises." The call ended. The next morning he found himself at Central Park, his head pounding from the conversation. He needed air, perspective, or maybe just silence. As he walked through the winding paths, the distant sound of music pulled his attention. It was not just the melody, it was the voice. Raw, emotional, steady like rain on a rooftop. He followed the sound until he found her, standing by a lamppost, guitar slung low, her dark hair loose around her shoulders, singing to no one in particular. She was wearing a faded denim jacket and scuffed boots. Her case opened before her with only a few crumpled bills inside, but her voice, it felt like it could soften stone. Thomas waited until she finished her song. She looked up, meeting his eyes with a flicker of caution. "You have a voice," he said. "I have a name too," she replied, defensive. "Lana." He nodded slowly. "Thomas." She looked him up and down. "Let me guess. Finance, corporate something." "Close enough." He hesitated, then added, "I have a strange proposal." She raised a brow. "I don't do anything illegal." "Not illegal, just unusual," he said. "I need a date, just one evening." "A party?" She laughed, short and disbelieving. "You don't strike me as the kind of guy who can't find someone to go with him to a party." "It's not just any party," he admitted. "It's my ex's engagement party. She's expecting me to show up alone." Lana folded her arms. "And you want me to play Cinderella?" "You'd be paid," he said, "generously. Enough to help you out, maybe more than just that." She stared at him for a moment, amused and skeptical. "Why me?" "Because you're not part of her world," he said quietly. "She wouldn't see you coming." Her eyes narrowed. "You're trying to humiliate your ex." "I'm trying to reclaim something," he corrected. "And you're the only one I've met in a long time who doesn't seem like they care about impressing anyone." She shook her head. "I sing on sidewalks, Thomas. I'm not built for dinner parties and places with chandeliers." "That's exactly why you'll shine," he said. She laughed again, but there was something more bitter beneath it this time. "That's a pretty line." Then he said softly, "I'll cover your mother's hospital bills." The laughter vanished from her face. She looked at him, eyes narrowing. "How do you know about that?" "I don't," he admitted. "It was a guess, but I saw your face change when someone dropped a 5 into your case instead of a 1. She didn't speak for a long moment, then, softly, "You're serious?" "I am," he said. "All night. A few hours. I'll cover everything." She exhaled slowly, then finally nodded. "But you better make it worth it, Suit." He gave her a rare smile. "I will." The boutique studio on Fifth Avenue shimmered with gold-trimmed mirrors and soft white lighting. Lana stood stiffly in front of a full-length mirror as a stylist flitted around her with swatches and silk. She had tried on a dozen dresses already, each more elaborate than the last, but none felt like her. Thomas sat quietly on a nearby couch, dressed in charcoal slacks and a crisp white shirt, watching without comment. He had brought her here straight after one of his meetings, barely checking his phone during the fitting, a rarity, she noted. The stylist clapped her hands. "This next one," she said, "will be it." It was a deep forest green gown, simple yet elegant, hugging her figure without screaming for attention. Lana stepped out in it, hesitant, but when she caught her own reflection, she paused. Thomas stood up slowly. "That one," he said. Lana looked down at herself. "Feels a little too, princess." "You are playing the part," he replied, "but you still look like you." She nodded slowly, then reached into her satchel and pulled out a worn leather bracelet, frayed at the edges. "I'm keeping this on," she said. "My mom gave it to me." Thomas simply nodded. "It works." By the time they finished, the city lights had begun to flicker on outside. Thomas checked his watch. "I don't have time for dinner out, but we could cook at my place. We still need to run through our story." Lana raised an eyebrow. "You cook?" "I do." His apartment was sleek, modern, and understated, exactly how she imagined it would be. Floor-to-ceiling windows, soft gray furniture, and a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a magazine. She stared at the marble countertops. "Are you sure you actually cook in here?" Thomas rolled up his sleeves, revealing strong, scarred forearms. "Used to cook every night when my mom was sick." It stuck. Lana opened a drawer and blinked. "You alphabetized your spices." "Efficiency," he said with a smirk. She snorted. "You're a serial killer." While he chopped onions with practiced ease, Lana tried to mimic him. Her knife slipped, sending onion slices flying. She yelped, dropping the knife and backing up dramatically. "Okay, I'm officially banned from all sharp objects." Thomas chuckled, stepping in and gently guiding her hands. "Like this. Firm grip, curl your fingers." As she resumed, he moved to prep the sauce. Lana sneezed, blinking through onion tears. "How do you do this without crying?" "Experience," he said. "And emotional repression." She knocked over the salt jar, groaning as the granules spilled across the counter. Thomas grabbed a towel and helped clean it up without a word. "Consider it extra flavor, like a little chaos added to a perfect plan." She glanced at him. "You don't get mad easily, do you?" "I've learned not to." Soon, pasta simmered, and fresh herbs sizzled in a pan. They moved with a rhythm, not perfect but natural, and by the time they sat at the small dining table, it smelled like something out of a bistro. "So," Thomas said, refilling her water glass, "Olivia will ask what you do. I'll say I'm a singer. Bars, street corners, birthday parties for dogs." "Say you sing to live," he said, smiling slightly. "Not to impress." Lana tilted her head. "You like correcting people, don't you?" "I like clarity." They ate in silence for a moment, the mood surprisingly light. Then she raised her glass of water. "A toast." He lifted his own. "To what?" She grinned. "To poverty. The only reason we're not drinking wine." They clinked glasses. "To low expectations," Thomas added, deadpan. "And the thrill of pretending," Lana said, more softly. He studied her. "This doesn't feel like pretending." She looked away. "Not yet, anyway." When they finished, Lana leaned back in her chair. "I still think this whole thing is insane." "It is," he admitted, "but somehow I think it might just work." "For one night," she said. "For one night," he echoed. But in his chest, something tugged at the certainty of that limit. The chandelier above the grand ballroom shimmered with soft amber light, casting a glow over crystal glasses and satin gowns. Waiters glided between the tables like ghosts in black and white, and the hum of moneyed conversation hovered in the air like perfume. Thomas walked in first, composed as ever, but when Lana stepped beside him, the room shifted. She wore the forest green gown like it was sewn from stardust. Her hair was swept into a soft twist, a few curls falling playfully near her cheek. Her steps were light, confident but unassuming. She had no diamonds, no glitter, only the leather bracelet on her wrist, and yet heads turned. Conversations trailed off. Glasses paused midway to lips. Thomas offered her his arm. She took it with a slight smirk. "You looked like you planned this." "I did," he replied under his breath. Olivia was near the center of the room, surrounded by designer-clad guests and champagne flutes. She turned at the stir of attention and froze. Her eyes narrowed. Her smile faltered, just for a second. "Thomas," she greeted, the words honeyed with sarcasm. Her gaze swept over Lana with slow, deliberate disdain. "You found someone interesting." Lana gave a small nod, perfectly polite. Olivia's voice dipped low, venom laced with silk. "Did you pick her up outside a subway station, or does she just dress up nicely for special occasions?" Thomas's jaw tightened, but Lana placed a light hand on his arm, her signal to let her handle it. "I perform outside subway stations sometimes," Lana said, calm and unshaken. "The acoustics are surprisingly good." Olivia blinked. "So, a street performer. How quaint." "If by quaint you mean unforgettable," Lana added with a sweet smile, "then yes." Thomas couldn't hide the flicker of amusement in his eyes. They moved away before Olivia could reply, drifting toward the quieter side of the room. Lana exhaled softly. "Your ex has sharp claws." "She's always been a collector," Thomas murmured. "Of status, of people. She likes things that shine until they don't." Lana didn't respond. Instead, she noticed a couple seated near the tall window, their fingers intertwined, eyes soft with age and memory. She walked over gently. "Happy anniversary," she said after catching snippets of their conversation. The woman beamed. 52 years today." Lana smiled, pulled a small notepad from her clutch, and with swift, graceful strokes began to draw. Thomas watched from across the room, a glass of water in hand. He didn't interrupt. He didn't even smile. He just watched. When she handed them the sketch, two gentle faces side by side under a little arch of stars, the woman gasped, pressing her fingers to her lips. Her husband blinked hard, overcome. Lana touched the woman's shoulder lightly, then turned to leave. As she approached the table where Thomas waited, he stood and, without a word, pulled out her chair. She sat. He pushed it in. She looked at him. He didn't speak, but in his eyes was something soft, something unguarded. Before she could say anything, Olivia's voice rang out, cutting through the ambient music. "Lana, was it?" she called, all sugary invitation. "Would you sing something for us? I mean, since you perform in public, you must enjoy an audience." Thomas tensed. Lana smiled slowly. "Of course." Gasps whispered around the room as she rose and crossed the floor, unhurried, unflustered. A waiter brought her a handheld mic, and the pianist raised an eyebrow as she approached. "Do you know Moon River?" she asked him quietly. He nodded once, then placed his hands on the keys. The first notes floated into the air, soft, uncertain. Then she began to sing. Her voice was a ribbon, delicate, rich, and full of longing. It didn't demand attention, it earned it. One by one, guests turned toward her, glasses lowered, conversations stopped. Her tone carried something that couldn't be trained, honesty. Sadness wrapped in sweetness, hope stitched into every note. Thomas felt it like a slow wind brushing through the chest, undoing armor. Even Olivia stood frozen, her smile stiff, her fingers tightening around her glass. When the final note faded, the room was silent for a beat too long. Then the applause broke, sincere, startled, rising. Lana handed the mic back, bowed slightly, and walked back to Thomas. She sat beside him again, eyes down for a second. He leaned closer. "You were unbelievable." "I just sang," she whispered. "No. You reminded them what real feels like." He didn't reach for her hand, didn't say anything else, but he didn't need to. The way he looked at her, he wasn't pretending anymore. The city buzzed quietly under a light rain, the kind that made everything shimmer without soaking anything too quickly. Thomas and Lana walked side by side, the glow of the street lamps stretching their shadows long behind them. The post-party tension had melted away into something softer, almost tentative. Neither of them spoke at first. Lana looked up at the sky. "Well, that was unexpected," Thomas chuckled. "You mean your show-stealing performance, or Olivia's face during it?" "Both," she grinned, then glanced at him. "You okay? You were quiet after." "I was listening," he said, "to the way you silenced a room without raising your voice." Just then, the rain picked up slightly. Lana instinctively ducked her head, but before she could say a word, Thomas shrugged off his blazer and held it over her like a makeshift umbrella. "You'll get soaked," she said. "I'll survive," he gave a small smile. "You sang for me. Least I can do." She looked up at him, surprised by the softness in his voice. They continued walking, closer now. The kind of quiet that wrapped around them was not awkward. It was full, like a song waiting for its chorus. "Can I ask something?" Lana said. "Of course. Are you still pretending?" Thomas didn't answer right away. He looked ahead, watching the sidewalk curve gently toward a row of quiet storefronts. A neon sign buzzed faintly in the distance. Lana's bar. He exhaled, his voice low. "I do not know what this is. But tonight? With you? I have not felt this light in years, not even when I thought I was in love before." She stared at him for a second, then looked away. "That's a good answer." They arrived at the familiar door. Worn wood, peeling red paint. A cracked sign above that simply said, "Marlowe's." "I sing here every Saturday," Lana said. "Want to come in?" Thomas tilted his head. "You inviting me to see the real thing now?" She pushed the door open with a wink. "If you can handle it." Inside, the bar was dim, cozy. The bartender nodded at Lana, and a few regulars offered warm smiles. It smelled like old wood and new bourbon. The stage was barely more than a raised platform with a single mic. Lana handed Thomas his damp blazer, slipped behind the curtain, and minutes later appeared on stage, casual in jeans and a fitted black tee. No glam, no stylists, just her. The lights dimmed slightly. She looked at Thomas, then began. Her voice was the same, yet different, more unguarded, more alive. She sang something bluesy, her fingers tapping to the rhythm, her expression playful but rooted in truth. Thomas sat at the edge of the bar, watching, and something inside him shifted again, not because she was dazzling, but because she was real, and she was no longer pretending, and neither was he. The corporate gala was held at a sleek rooftop venue overlooking the skyline, its glass walls reflecting the city lights like a million little stars. Lana stepped out of the elevator beside Thomas, her heels clicking softly against the marble floor. The dress she wore tonight was elegant, understated, chosen by Thomas's stylist, but it did little to quiet the nervous flutter in her chest. Thomas looked at her and gently whispered, "We're just going to talk, smile, and leave when you're tired. You don't have to prove anything to anyone." Lana nodded, grateful for his reassurance. But the moment the elevator doors closed behind them, she felt the shift. The air was cooler. Eyes turned. Conversations dipped. As they walked into the space, people looked, some with curiosity, others with subtle disapproval. A woman in a crimson gown leaned toward her partner, whispering behind a manicured hand. A man in a gray suit glanced at Lana's shoes before looking away with a smirk. Thomas guided her to the drink table. "Champagne?" he offered. "I'll take sparkling water," Lana said, her voice quieter than usual. Across the room, Thomas's colleagues started to drift over. They smiled, polite, calculated, and asked the usual questions. "So, Lana, what do you do? How did you two meet? Have you always lived in the city?" Lana answered each question with grace, but every word felt like walking a tightrope. When she mentioned singing, one woman chuckled lightly. "How charming," she said, her tone sugar-coated but sharp underneath. "I do love a good dive bar performance." Thomas's jaw tightened. "Lana has a gift," he said flatly, but Lana gently touched his arm, signaling him to let it go. Moments later, someone mentioned private equity. Another referenced a ski trip to the Alps. Lana smiled, nodded, but said little. She didn't belong here, and she felt it in every corner of her body. An hour in, the music shifted to upbeat jazz, and couples began to dance. Thomas turned to her. I need some air," Lana cut in. She left without waiting for a response. By the time Thomas caught up to her, she was already on the balcony, hugging herself against the breeze. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. Lana didn't look at him. "You didn't do anything wrong. But this," she motioned to the party behind the glass, "this isn't my world, Thomas. I don't know how to breathe in it." "I thought you might enjoy it," he said, stepping closer. "I wanted you to see what it's like when you're with me." "And I saw it," Lana replied. "Cold lights, colder smiles. I don't want to feel like a novelty every time I open my mouth." Thomas reached out, but she stepped back. "I need real things," she said. "A place where I can sing and mean it, where no one's waiting for me to stumble just so they can whisper about it later." He nodded, swallowing the lump rising in his throat. "So, what do we do now?" Lana met his eyes. "You go back in, I go home." She left without another word. The next evening, Lana was back at her regular bar, a cozy, dimly lit venue tucked between a laundromat and a pawn shop. Her usual corner was ready, guitar tuned, mic adjusted. The crowd was small, intimate. Midway through her second song, she spotted him. Thomas stood by the entrance, a little out of place in his work shirt and slacks. But he wasn't here to blend in. He was here for her. He nodded to the bartender, who dimmed the lights slightly, leaving only the stage aglow. When her set ended, Lana stepped off the stage, expecting him to come over. Instead, the bartender handed her a note. "Rooftop, 1 floor up." Curious, she climbed the stairs. The roof had been cleared, fairy lights strung between poles. At the center, a small wooden stage, bare except for a mic and a single folding chair. Thomas stood there, smiling nervously. "I rented it for the night," he said. "I thought, if you couldn't find yourself in my world, maybe I could find you in yours." Lana blinked, surprised. "Just for me?" "No," he said. "For you to be you, and for me to remember why I fell for that in the first place." Her heart caught. He stepped back, giving her space. She sat on the chair, fingers settling naturally on the guitar. As the first chords echoed under the night sky, Lana sang, not for strangers, not for approval, but for the man who had just made the loudest gesture without saying much at all. And Thomas listened, quietly, eyes never leaving her. Thomas stood in his office, staring out at the skyline. His reflection in the glass was pale and tired, the weight of days catching up with him. He had barely slept, his thoughts tied up in everything Lana made him feel and everything he was afraid of losing. The door clicked open behind him. "Thomas?" came the familiar voice of his younger sister, Eleanor. Poised, elegant, always exact with her words. She walked in with a stack of reports but laid them aside. Her expression was businesslike, but there was tension beneath it. "We need to talk. About her." He turned slowly. "Her name is Lana. She is not right for you." He blinked. "Excuse me?" "She is not your world, and you know it." Eleanor folded her arms. "You have worked your entire life to get where you are, and now you are risking everything for someone who sings on sidewalks and paints portraits on napkins? She is not a risk. She is the only thing that has ever made sense to me." "She is not sustainable," Eleanor snapped. "Do you know what people are already saying? That you have lost your edge? That this, whatever this is a distraction?" Thomas walked toward her, voice low and firm. "Maybe I wanted to be distracted. Maybe I am tired of chasing expectations that never made me feel alive." Eleanor's voice softened, but not her stance. "She will be crushed in our world. She doesn't belong. And deep down, you know that." Neither of them noticed the office door was still ajar, and in the hallway, clutching a brown paper bag with 2 takeaway soups and fresh bread, stood Lana. She had wanted to surprise him with lunch, thought they could talk, maybe laugh a little, after all the intensity of recent days. But what she heard stopped her cold. "She doesn't belong." The words hit like cold water. She didn't wait for more. She turned away, the bag slipping from her fingers as she fled the building. No one stopped her. Inside, Thomas turned back to his desk, unaware of what had just slipped through his fingers. That night, he called her. Straight to voicemail. He texted. Nothing. He visited the bar where she often sang. No sign of her. The owner shook his head. Haven't seen her in days. He tried the cafe near the park, the bookstore she once mentioned. He even stood outside the building he knew she lived in, but she did not come out. No light in her window, no music. Just silence. Days turned into nearly a week. He canceled meetings, barely ate. His team covered for him, but whispers grew. He sat on the park bench under the old oak tree, the same one where Lana once told him she sang not for fame, but so someone in the dark might feel a little less alone. He held the sketch she had given him, a portrait of him from that first dinner night, not the CEO, but the version she saw underneath, the one who quietly stirred soup, who smiled when no one was looking, who carried loneliness like a worn briefcase. Thomas traced the edge of the paper with his thumb. A breeze passed through the trees, and he whispered, as if the air could carry it to wherever she was hiding, "I'm sorry I let them speak louder than my heart." He stood, slipping the drawing back into his pocket, his jaw clenched with a new determination. "If you won't come back to me," he murmured, "I'll come to you." The city was buzzing that Saturday afternoon. Music echoed from every street corner as part of a community charity event. Booths lined the sidewalks, children with painted faces ran between stands, and a small crowd had begun to gather around a makeshift stage set beneath a canopy of string lights and ivy. Thomas had not planned to be there. He had walked aimlessly for hours, trying to clear his head, trying to quiet the ache that had taken residence in his chest since Lana disappeared. But something made him stop. A voice. Soft at first, raw, familiar. It poured into the air like honey and sunlight, aching and beautiful. He froze. It was her. Lana stood on the small wooden platform, hair swept to one side, eyes closed as she sang. She was not dressed for performance, just a simple blue dress, her old bracelet glinting under the afternoon light. A guitarist accompanied her, but her voice carried all the weight. It was a ballad, something mournful yet full of hope, a song about finding light in someone's shadow. People around him stood still, mesmerized. But Thomas only saw her. He stepped forward through the crowd, each footfall steady. Lana opened her eyes and saw him. Her voice caught slightly, but she kept singing. Thomas did not stop walking until he was just below the stage. When she reached the final note, silence fell, and he spoke, clear and calm for everyone to hear. "I told you once to help me pretend, to fool a room full of people into thinking we were in love, but the only person who got fooled was me." Lana stared down at him, tears welling. "I thought I was just hiring a partner for a night, but you made me feel like a version of myself I had forgotten. You made me laugh, made me think, made me see the world with new eyes." He took a breath. "And then I let them tell me you weren't enough. But the truth is, Lana, I was afraid you would realize I wasn't enough for you." Someone in the crowd gasped softly. Lana's hand trembled around the microphone. Thomas stepped closer to the stage. "I don't want to pretend anymore," he said, voice cracking slightly. "I don't care what parties you fit into or what people expect. I only care about what I feel when you sing, what I feel when I look at you. It's real. It's the only thing that's ever been real." Lana dropped the microphone gently onto the stool beside her. Her eyes shimmered, and in the quiet, a single tear traced down her cheek. Then she stepped off the stage. One step, then another, and when she was close enough, she didn't speak. She just fell into his arms. The crowd erupted in applause, but neither of them heard it clearly. They were holding on too tightly. Thomas whispered into her hair, "I'm sorry it took me so long." Lana looked up, her voice soft, raw, and sure. "I was just waiting for the truth." And there, in the middle of a city street, surrounded by strangers and song, they found their way back, not through grand gestures or perfect words, but through the only thing that had always connected them, the truth in a voice and the courage to listen. The neighborhood had changed. It was subtle, less about buildings and more about the rhythm of the streets. Where sirens used to echo, now came laughter. Where silence once settled, music floated through open windows, and in the center of it all was a small converted warehouse with a painted sign above the door, Lana's Music Corner. Inside, children sat cross-legged with ukuleles too big for their arms. Some tapped at hand drums, others hummed as Lana gently guided them through melodies. Her voice was softer here, not performing, but teaching, giving. Classes were free. No kid was ever turned away. What most did not know was that every instrument, every music sheet, every light bulb had been quietly paid for by Thomas. He never signed a check with his name. That was how he wanted it. Their home was a modest apartment near the park, just 2 rooms, a little balcony, and a kitchen where they still cooked together. Lana always trying to flip pancakes too early, Thomas always cleaning up without a word. Every evening she would sing as he sat beside her, notebook in hand, scribbling lyrics he never thought he had inside him. They called it evening rehearsal. though most nights ended in laughter and unfinished songs. But one night was different. A community concert had been organized in the park. No suits, no spotlights, just neighbors, blankets, and string lights swinging in the wind. Thomas sat in the middle row. He did not come with a name tag or a title, just jeans and a folded program. But when Lana stepped onto the small wooden stage with her guitar and that same old bracelet on her wrist, every part of him leaned forward. She glanced toward the crowd and found him instantly. No one else existed. She strummed the first chord and began to sing. The song was new, one she had written with him. It was not about heartbreak or longing. It was about stillness, about finally finding a place to land. Her voice wrapped around the park like a lullaby for the weary. People stopped talking. Children leaned against their parents. Couples held hands. But Thomas only watched her. She was not pretending anymore. She was not proving anything. She was just home. As the final note faded, the crowd erupted into applause. Lana stood under the soft glow of the lanterns, bowing gently. Thomas's eyes glistened, but he did not move. He was smiling, softly, deeply, because he knew this was not just a concert, it was a moment. And he was no longer watching from the outside. He belonged to this music now, to her. He leaned back, heart full, and whispered to himself, "She was once the voice that made me stop. Now, she's the reason I want to stay. Forever." As the music faded and the final note lingered in the cool night air, Thomas remained seated, his eyes fixed on the stage where Lana stood smiling under the string lights. The children from her music class gathered around, their laughter ringing like tiny bells in the twilight. She had just finished her last song, one they had written together late at night on the apartment floor, surrounded by scribbled lyrics and cold tea. Thomas's heart felt full, not in the way success ever filled it, but in the quiet, anchoring way love does when it's real. This wasn't just a happy ending. It was a new beginning, a life stitched together not by status or spectacle, but by choice, by music, by moments that no one else had to understand, just the two of them. And as he watched her wave to the crowd, his voice whispered inside him, soft and sure, "She used to be the voice that made me stop in my tracks. Now, she's the reason I never want to walk away again." If this story stirred something in you, if it made you smile, cry, or believe a little more in love that finds you when you least expect it, then please subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories. Here, we tell tales that move hearts, inspire hope, and remind you that the smallest moments often change everything. Click subscribe, share this video with someone who still believes in love, and join us again soon for another story that heals, humbles, and holds you close.